Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 135. Today, we're going to be talking about the trials of the cave, their mysteries, and what that means for you. With our good podcast friends, Pat and Charles from ConverSWations podcast. Welcome to the show, Pat and Charles.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you here, beaming in live from Florida, where all sorts of things happen. Joining me today, as always, Miss Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be back.
Yes, you're out of the back to tank. You're good to go. You could rip the ears off a Tauntaun.
Probably.
A Gundark.
Gundark.
I started working out again. I could do it.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you can. And, of course, Mr. Todd Hoffman.
Hello there.
Are you Obi-Wan now?
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about the cave, so I have to be Obi-Wan.
You're like desert Obi-Wan who has lived in a cave for 40 years.
Right.
That explains the paleness.
Gotcha. Well, we want to dive right into it. Talk about both the Last Jedi cave and the Empire cave. It's mysteries, it's chills, it's thrills. But first, we got to pay some bills. All right.
That rhymed. That rhymed.
I'm thinking amazing. One step ahead.
It's almost like they've done this before.
All right. You can find everybody here, except myself, on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. Email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. We want to hear from you, and you want to hear your gorgeous voice blasted across the galactic holonet. Don't be shy. Our entire back catalog of episodes and all links can be found at podcast.wstrmedia.com. That is the central hub of our podcast empire. As big as it is. All right, here's why you should check out Audible. It is an easy, no-risk way to support this podcast and find some entertainment and education in the downtime of your day. Who knows? You might find yourself stuck in a cave with nothing to do. With Audible,
it's true.
You've got the world's knowledge at your fingertips, at your ear tips, I guess. Audible is Amazon's audiobook service, of course, which brings you over 425,000 titles to choose from, wherever and whenever you want to listen. You can head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR today, or any day really, to claim your free 30-day trial, which includes a free audiobook of your choice and now 2 free Audible originals. Those are Audible's exclusive audio material produced just for them. You could just get it through Audible, and you get 2 of them free per month, with a new selection cycled out every month. As of this recording, we don't know what August's choices are yet, so go check them out. See what you find. These are audiobooks produced for and available exclusively through Audible. They're great. They're amazing. Todd, you listened to Tom Stranger, Intergalactic Insurance Agent. Is that right?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
Hilarious. It's a little short, but it was pretty amazing. And I mean, you can't get any better than Intergalactic Insurance Salesman. I don't know what to tell you. It's fantastic. So if you like kind of that weird humor, it's definitely one of those things you should check out. And it's a little sci-fi too. So both it has, humor, sci-fi. It's right there. It's awesome.
And it has one of the Baldwin brothers.
Yeah, the lesser Baldwin, which makes it even better.
Billy?
Yep. It's like the Sam's Club Baldwin brother.
No.
Not that low. Okay. It's like the Jewel Osco Baldwin brother. That's a Midwest thing.
Just like the packaging beside you.
Right.
Yep. All right. So, all that said, you get a free month free book of your choice from over 425,000. That's almost 500,000. I bet it's 500,000 by now. This is old copy. And you get 2 of this month's Audible originals for free to keep forever. Cancel anytime. No questions asked. You don't even have to flip the bartender a coin and say sorry about the mess. It is taken care of for you. audibletrial.com/WSTR. We're also brought to you by our merch store. That's right. Head on over to store.wstrmedia.com. Take that hyperspace lane over to our Teespring store. And we can cover you head to toe in WSTR merch. We've got hats, we've got hoodies, we've got tank tops, t-shirts, gloves, yoga pants, socks, and mugs, and stickers. What else could you want?
It's all right there.
It's all right there.
Foulards.
Head on over.
We want foulards.
You know what? We should get a scarf.
Exactly.
Or like a nice ascot.
There you go. See, an ascot
I'm an
is
ascot man.
Yeah,
myself.
An ascot's just a shorter version of a foulard. That's all.
There you go. All right. That, again, is store.wstrmedia.com. And Heather, we have paid the bills.
We have.
Let's tease that news. What is coming up in the world of Star Wars news?
Okay, fans, we know that you don't like to get spoiled on things, so I'm going to tease it out, and then you'll have plenty of time to enjoy the podcast before learning the dirty details.
Yep, she's planting a time bomb.
Yeah, right. In our minds.
When will it go off?
Right.
No one knows. Okay.
What do we got this week?
Numero uno. Who dug up this old fossil? Point
Still
B.
a great line.
Jawa's passing.
Oh no. Well, is it talking about like a landmark?
You'll have to wait and see.
All right.
And then
What else we
in
got?
last place we have, how about that red one?
Oh, is it talking about the C-3PO arm?
No, R5D4,
Yeah,
man.
right. The bad motivator.
Who is spoiling this, Todd?
It could be. It's a reference to that.
It's a teaser situation.
Hey, I wrote the teaser, so.
Oh, that's
But
what
I
I've got
forgot.
for ya.
I forgot him already, so I'm going to be surprised too.
Great.
Great.
But gentlemen, that's not all. That's not all that I bring you today.
There's more.
There's more, because we have intercepted an Imperial transmission.
Senator! Intercepted Imperial transmission, Mom.
It's coming over the wire.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it coming through?
It's a garbled transmission.
It's a bit weak, but it's coming through.
It's hard. It's hard to hear. But we want you to check out what Mike has to say from How Star Wars Is It? So, Aaron, roll that clip.
Rolling.
Hi, I'm Josiah.
And I'm Mike.
And we're the host of
How Star Wars Is It? It's a podcast where we rate and review things like movies.
But not of how good or bad they are.
Yeah, no, how Star Wars they are.
And what does that mean, you might ask? It's a little something like this.
If Star Wars was Everybody Loves Raymond, this is King of Queens.
If Chris Farley was still around.
Yeah, Kevin James wouldn't exist. I have a game. It is called Sebulba or Bulbasaur. Yeah, when he was a Palpatine. Do we have like an animated show that we could pitch?
The Emperor and his
it takes place
Palpatine.
at Count Dooku is around his age, plus
Yeah,
or
maybe
minus a decade.
Maybe like Count Dooku.
That's really funny.
If that sounded good,
Or Star Wars.
then check us out on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts at How Star Wars Is It.
And like we always say, may the fourth be with you.
Well, yes, we love to hear from our fans, from our podcast friends, from whoever enjoys our content and wants in on the conversation. So we're going to be talking about the caves coming up. We want to hear what you have to say about it. So go ahead and ring that number, 630-557-9787, and you could be on next week's podcast. All right, Todd. It's everybody's favorite time. Yeah. And by that, I mean my least favorite time of the podcast.
Twitter trash compactor.
Get in there, you big 40-year-old!
Put on your galoshes. We're going in.
We're going deep into Dagobah because we're going to stay in the cave too. So you get to come out of your little abode and talk a little Twitter. So
I've got my nose plugs in.
What an interesting
let's do
smell
it.
you've discovered.
So in episode 133, we were talking about with Tom and Mike from the Behind the Bucket documentary, and we asked, what is your favorite OT Stormtrooper? Okay, so OT is original trilogy, all right? So we have 4 choices because that is all Twitter gives us. And so we have Biker Scout, at Driver, or AT Driver, whatever you prefer, Snowtrooper, and Stormtrooper. I'm going to start with Charles. What would you pick out of those 4 choices?
I'm going for the at Driver.
Okay. And your team at?
100%.
Okay, good. Pat, what would you choose?
I thought you would have picked Snowtrooper, but that's fine. I like the Scout Troopers. I think they got a cool helmet design, and they ride speeder bikes. That's cool.
That's cool. Right. Really fast.
Yeah.
Highly dangerous.
Like dangerously fast.
Dangerous, yeah.
But my at Driver can kill your speeder.
They're on the same side.
Not always. They have bad aim, don't forget.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also true. All right.
It's like, Jimmy,
Point
you kind of
Charles.
came close with the turbo laser. Sorry, man.
Yeah, little higher.
All right, Heather, who would you pick out of these 4 choice?
I did pick because I voted on Twitter.
That I appreciate that.
That's why I'm here to support.
Yes.
I also chose the Biker Scout.
Okay. Oh, all right. And the reason for that is
Because I wanted to.
I wanted to.
yeah.
Perfect.
You don't need to explain yourself to
All
you.
right. That's
right.
good.
No, I mean, yes, obviously the original Stormtrooper is kind of a big deal, but I dig
Yeah.
the vibe of the Biker Scout.
Right.
Just, yeah, speeder bike, just seems a little bit more mobile, a
Yeah.
bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have that in spades with the Biker Scout.
true.
Cool.
He could bend down. He could bend up and pick a twig or get
Right,
thrown
I'm just
over the
saying.
shoulder by Han Solo. I mean, he's mobile. Aaron, what would you pick from this choice?
I'm a snowtrooper kind of guy.
Oh,
I like the face cloak action going on. It's kind of freaky looking.
Right,
I like it.
yeah.
They got the gauntlets. They show up for like one scene, but I guess you could say that for Biker Scout as well. But I don't know. There's just something really striking about that design that I really like.
They have a backpack too.
They do.
True.
Yeah, yeah, and a
They
little
wear
like
skirts.
the turret.
They wear skirts.
They wear skirts, but so do
Kilts.
clone troopers. You know, they wear skirts. Some clone troopers wear skirts too. So.
Yes. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
There's not.
Not at all.
No.
They're all Scottish.
No.
Right. I mean, he's kind of wearing a little mini skirt on his, for the hood.
Wait, who's wearing a mini skirt? Wait, is that in a special edition?
Yeah, it's like a face skirt.
He's got a face skirt. You see that?
Yeah.
So you should have gone with Snowtrooper.
It's
much
really
more
rather
interesting.
progressive.
Yeah.
They were ahead of their time.
Yeah, I would say George was like, put on that face skirt right there.
Yeah, and they should have skirts, but on the face.
Yes, George.
I mean, first you get rompers for men. Like, who knows where it'll go? We're gonna have face skirts, I bet.
Face skirts, face mini skirts.
Yes.
Yes. Ooh,
All on board.
Scandalous.
We-
All right, Todd. What did Twitter come up with?
Well, first of all, I have to vote.
He does.
Yeah. I say Stormtrooper. I mean, it's a classic, and I am one. I play one on TV. So yeah,
You're on TV?
Well, maybe once or twice in my life. Yeah, Stormtrooper is classic. I love it, so I had to vote for that.
How would we know if you were on TV?
He's
You
the
look
one
like
in the
everybody
helmet.
else.
Yeah. I don't know. Does TV even exist? I don't know. But
Anyone watch TV anymore?
just I don't watch TV anymore. No.
What's a TV?
I don't even know what that is. But Twitter did vote for Biker Scout.
Oh.
I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised, but that's what it is. So
What did you think they were going to vote for?
either, but I mean, between I would say Biker Scout and Stormtrooper are probably the more popular ones than an AT-AT Driver and Snowtrooper, but Biker Scout wins.
All right, how about that?
There you go. There you
Twitter
go.
was right for once.
Yeah, I know.
Once.
That's it for the year.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going back into my hole.
Yes, please go
You
back to your.
survived, Darren. You survived.
Yeah.
Into
But don't.
exile I must go.
We're gonna come join you in the Dagobah Cave real soon. So
You're coming up to the
no,
city.
Yeah, no spicy tweets this week. I didn't see anything crazy on the old Twitter this week, Aaron. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but
Oh, believe me, I am not disappointed.
yeah. Well, shall we go to our main topic?
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, we are here. But first, before we get into those caves, we got to ask these fine gentlemen. All right, I'm going to start with Charles. How did you get into Star Wars?
Well, a long time ago in a small, cold Canadian town far, far away. Yeah, I was born in the early 70s, and I was just a bit too young to see Star Wars, of course, not A New Hope, but Star Wars in theaters. But I got to enjoy a double feature at a drive-in in Canada. Yes, we have those, or used to have them. It was a double feature. It was Empire Strikes Back, and the second movie of that double feature was Star Wars. That was my first introduction to those two wonderful movies, and from then on, it was love at first sight. Yeah, it was. I fondly remember going to see Return of the Jedi, lining up on the sidewalk to get in, and really from that point on, it was a lifelong passion for it. And of course, there was the dark time between Jedi and the Phantom Menace, and by that time, as I've said a few times on the podcast, is that it wasn't for me at that point. At that point in my life, it just wasn't the movies that I was looking to watch, and that was
right.
It just didn't work out that way, and I knew they were there, and there was the new sort of resurgent fandom for it. Wasn't really part of it, and then I met Pat, and he sort of shoved it down my throat.
And don't you forget it.
No, I can't. I'm still paying the doctor for it. Right. But yeah, and then just really re-exploring those the prequels and coming to enjoy them much more. And of course, I love the sequel trilogy. And again, thanks to Pat, I started watching the Clone Wars and then Rebels, and adds such depth and richness to the entire saga.
Cool.
And I think in the past 3 or 4 years, it's been completely enveloping, and it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Absolutely. All right, Pat, how about you?
My introduction to Star Wars was very informal. I was a fan of Indiana Jones, actually, as a very young child, and I remember going into the living room and seeing the carbonite scene, okay, and it was just as Han's going into the carbonite, and and then he comes out in the coffin-looking carbonite, and I remember being so upset that they trapped Indiana Jones in this contraption. Yeah, I was like, oh no, and then come to find out, it wasn't Indiana Jones. It was Han Solo. And
you're like, where did that fedora go?
Yeah, I'm like, I understand it probably wouldn't fit in the carbon freezing chamber, so they took it off. And it's
the same thing with the binders; they didn't fit.
Right, and the big furry thing. I remember Sala looking different in Raiders than he did now. But maybe there was casting choices. I don't know. But so that's kind of where my first introduction was that I recall. And of course, that was Empire. So then I had to watch the whole movie. That was not part of the Indiana Jones trilogy. No. And then, of course, that opened up my world to Star Wars, which was maybe 5-6 years old.
Wow.
And then I was tail end of high school when the prequels were coming out. So I'd seen them all on opening day and enjoyed them as Star Wars movies at the time, but didn't really feel the emotional weight that was supposed to, that I was supposed to feel, I guess, because I didn't really connect with the characters the way that I had the original until Clone Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
Exactly. All right, so the follow-up question is, like, how did you guys then decide, we're going to do a Star Wars podcast?
Well, you want to take this one?
Well, I'll tell them my version.
And then I'll tell you the real version. Okay.
I would give the credit to our wives for this podcast that we started, because whenever we get together, that's all we do is have ConverSWations, and it is just like that, because our texts, everything we communicate has a tinge of Star Wars somewhere in it, whether ridiculous. It's a reference, whether it's replacing sections of words with the word Luke. It's all encompassing, and as much as they put up with it, our wives,
it's their fault.
It's their fault because they got us to do this podcast. However, we go off in a room and leave them alone, so I think there's an ulterior motive to that as well.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours.
You're giving them a break from you.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's exactly.
You're welcome, ladies. We live about 2 hours away from Disney World.
Okay.
And so we had taken frequent trips up that way. As a big, massive,
flotilla,
poorly mashed together family, and the entire drive would just be, I would be your Chewie, and and we would just talk and be nerds, and they said, stop doing that in our presence. Go do it somewhere else. And we said, okay, cool. So,
and record it.
Right, to learn what not to do. No, yeah, so that's kind of how everything came to be with that, and here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing, guys. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think let's get nerdy together, and let's talk about these caves, okay?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
So, just to bring our listeners up to speed, we're going to start first with the first one chronologically, and we're talking about Empire. So, I'm going to use air quotes here, according to legends, and Wikipedia, if you want to reference that as well. The cave is really a focal point of dark side of the Force. And the cave challenges the perception of anyone who enters its depths. Drawing visitors in, they often experience visions of the past, future, or possible futures. Ooh. Okay, so
we're also in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you guys are in the future too. So, okay, this is what the interaction between Yoda and Luke goes, and it says, that place is strong in the dark side of the Force, a domain of evil it is. In you must go, Yoda says. And Luke's like, what's in there? And only what you take with you. And if you remember, Luke's like, he just kind of puts on the belt buckle. He's got a blaster, lightsaber. He's like, I'm going in hot.
Armed to the teeth.
Armed to the teeth.
Right.
I'm shooting everything that moves.
Right. So, there's a couple snakes, lizards. It's dark in there. It's a little dark, a little scary. And then he finally gets to the cave and enters it, and Darth Vader comes out.
Can I have for like 30 seconds?
Sure, you could have 30 seconds.
Little green guy you just meet.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a domain of evil. You must go inside.
Be like, Frog, you tripping. I ain't doing that.
Well, there's just lawsuits and counseling. It's just such a bad idea.
He
It's all right.
consented to it.
That's my 30 seconds.
I mean, he's just twirling his little cane in the little pond and
just waiting for him to come out.
Just waiting.
And he'd be like, I told you. But we were just discussing this actually because we read ahead because we're in the future and all.
Right, yeah.
And, he's like, only what you bring with you. And Luke immediately throws on the belt with the saber and the blaster. And then, since he brought the weapons with him, he ends up using them, against Vader, which you had said had terrified you to see Luke's face in the helmet there.
How do they do that?
But
That was my reaction as a kid.
Would his encounter have been different had he not brought those things with him?
That's an interesting point. Like, it would have been a different kind of encounter than...
Right.
You know, if he had brought nothing in rather than what he did.
Well, I think first of all, again, he's doing his hot yoga with Yoda there, and
remember this shirt we made?
We made a for Celebration Orlando.
For Celebration Orlando, we made a Yoda's Yoga Temple shirt, and it had Luke like up on his arm,
and Yoda on the bottom at the top of his feet for a T-shirt, literally. Right. Oh man, that's great. Okay,
it's amazing.
Fantastic.
So I'm on that camp. And Heather did hot yoga for a little bit too. So
my wife did goat yoga one time with goats.
Wow.
Well, I think the answer is yes, because he doesn't feel prepared at all, and so that's why he's like, I'm gonna pack as much as I can, into that, and so his enemy or his fear is Darth Vader, and then when they do the little bing, 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 and because it's not as intense as the prequels and stuff like that. It's just bing, bing, done. Yeah. But
that's all he learned yet.
Yeah, that's all he learned too, right? Yeah, exactly. And
I think I know which end to hold.
right, exactly. And
not the lit up end.
No,
don't hold that side.
But he goes for the head. He does he goes for the head. And then it explodes in a sense, and it's him. It's so counseling,
right?
Yes.
And this is before anybody planted the idea that he might be his father.
Right.
Correct. So right. He has no clue. Right. But it goes to say, is the Force trying to show him that if he goes down this path, that could be him.
Because he went into the cave with fear.
Right.
And of course,
and aggression, because he's like, I'm bringing my lightsaber and blaster. Those two things, pew pew pew, and zoom boom boom. I'm gonna do my thing, and I think it is kind of showing that, if you fight with aggression, you can turn into the thing you're trying to fight against.
I think it was hatred too, because he's like, this dude, he killed my dad.
Yeah, right.
That will not abide.
And if from a high level interpretation, if I want to even think back to when I first saw it, for me, when I saw Luke's face, and like Pat said, I was not terrified. It was like a sort of disturbing, like, oh my god, first of all, I considered he just killed his twin, but it was, for me, it sort of transformed into he was his own enemy, or his own worst enemy at that point. Was he sort of blocking his own sort of future as a Jedi? Of course, not knowing whatsoever the future was going to happen with him and him being his father. Yeah, the different interpretations of that, like Heather was saying, is psychiatrist worthy of a couch.
I like that Todd had mentioned real quick the aspect of aggression, that Luke went in to fight, and then to kind of bring that around to present day Luke in The Last Jedi, where he used no aggression whatsoever.
Right.
I think that's kind of him, obviously backing away from that mentality towards a more Zen position.
But there's an age difference there too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's not a young pup who's like, I'm going to go fight my way through the world. And so.
At the starting of his training.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, but he realizes I think he realizes his vision in Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he sees okay, Darth Vader's on the CPAP machine and he can't breathe well and he cut off his hand, he's like, oh, I have a robot hand and I'm one step closer to being my dad. And and that's when he threw the lightsaber down. He's like, okay, I might not learn a lot in Dagobah, and I had 2-week boot camp with Yoda, but that cave scared the beep out of me, and I'm going to not do this, even if I have to die. Because that's kind of the choice he made. He's kind of saying, you know what, Emperor, you're not going to get me like you did my father.
Right.
Because I know my dad was a Jedi.
Nice.
And it wasn't because he was overpowered by either one of them. He had surrendered from...
It's a choice. Yeah, it's a choice. He made that choice right then. He's like, I'm not going down this path because if anything told me in that cave, I'm going to be him.
Right.
And
there's that subtlety of the unmasking of Vader as well.
Yes.
There's that correlation between him, Luke seeing himself, and then in Return of the Jedi, him seeing his father. Both in that sort of very, naked face from behind the mask.
Yeah. That's deep.
Far less threatening.
Yeah.
Yes, and less hair.
There's also something to be said, I think, that this is the first most direct mystical element of Star Wars, in that we see the Force, but it's just kind of on the very edges of perception and how it gently influences the world. We see the Force in that Luke is he's able to deflect the blaster bolts from the training droid, and he's able to guide the proton torpedo into the thermal exhaust port. But this is the first time where we're in a more mystical space, and the Force is actually manifesting an illusion or some kind of being directly to teach Luke something.
Right.
And we don't really see anything quite like it in the original trilogy. So it's highly significant for one, but it's also, it really has to do, I think, with something about either Vader or Luke being the chosen one, in that the Force would show up this strong in a place like this.
You're very right. Yeah, as opposed to a vision, this is a physical manifestation that he is able to, hit and essentially kill and remove his head. It's a great point.
Yeah, and I want to note, to spin off of Aaron's point, the track for this is called The Magic Tree from John Williams. And then so it's that mystical fairy kind of, this is where it's not sci-fi, this is more space fantasy, and this is the fantasy angle where you have your little green frog, kind of guiding him into this mystical place. And like Aaron said, it's a little bit different, and I just love that it's called The Magic Tree. They didn't spoil it like Phantom Menace when they said Qui-Gon's funeral or anything.
Yes.
They instead of saying the cave, they said the magic tree. So I'm appreciative of that. But I think it also just lends to what John Williams was also kind of scoring here.
Oh, nice.
With that kind of mystical aspect.
So worthy of a re-mention, just how strong of John Williams' influence, subtly but with immense weight of how he lends each scene. It's spectacular.
It's crazy. So I think let's move on to Rey's experience. So in The Last Jedi, obviously, Luke's like, you went straight to the darkness. Because she, they start seeing she trying to teach him the 3 lessons. And Luke's like telling her, what do you see? What do you feel? And she's drawn to a cave, something. And so, he panics. Luke panics. He's like, whoa, and
starts blowing up butts and stuff. Come on.
Yeah. And so Rey physically goes into this underwater cave and then gets pulled back out. And she's like kind of off the rock now. And Luke's like, dude, went straight to the darkness, man. Not cool, So when we get to the part where she's actually kind of talking about it, we don't realize she's actually talking to Kylo.
Yeah.
So she's kind of explaining her process where she's like, I got to go back there. Just how the mystical tree called her and she finds the sacred text. This is another place of darkness where she wants to enter that. And so, again, she's from Jakku, but dumps in some water. No big deal. Never swam before. But that's okay. So she, jumps in the water.
But Todd, she just knows how to swim.
Yeah,
she's that good.
The force.
Yeah, just like the Falcon.
Yeah. So she goes into this underwater cave, and she's really her in this space is another dark side presence, and she's seeking who her parents are. That's kind of her thing, and she kind of goes to this mirror. It's like a mirror glass finisher, of this cave. And when she gets close, Heather, what's the mirror Harry looks at?
The mirror
in Harry Potter.
The mirror of Erez.
Oh, one of those.
It's desire backwards. How do we say that? Irized. Sorry,
Irized.
that took a minute.
Thank you,
nice.
my Potter friend.
You're welcome. How else can I serve?
Right, exactly. So in Harry Potter, that's one of Harry's kind of wants is he wants to know who his mom and dad are. And so when he looks at the mirror, he sees his mom and dad, they're right there, and he just sits there. He's like, dude, this is the best. I love mom and dad, but
that might be how magic works. But that's not how the Force works.
Right, exactly. So as Rey is approaching the mirror, you see 2 forms, like 2 shadows, and everyone in the when you're sitting there, you're like, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and then when she gets there, it's just her.
Right. And you see, that was
been her.
And that's been her like throughout the entire experience, and that's what Pat and I were talking about beforehand, where Luke entered the cave on Dagobah with weapons.
Yes.
And ended up facing and realizing and seeing himself in an aggressive path. Rey entered her cave without weapons.
Correct.
And ended up facing and seeing herself. Yet they still come to the same point that their future, while 2 separate paths, of course, they're still going to be ending up seeing them for themselves without having to use aggression on either side. Like, well, obviously with Luke he did, but with Rey she didn't. And the point you brought up before about the monologue that she's going through was very interesting. That she started that monologue while experiencing like the snapping fingers scene, and she's starting to talk. You hear that monologue, but it's clear that she's not talking to herself. It's not an inner monologue. She's speaking to someone. So she's setting that setting the viewers up for the eventual reveal of it being Kylo in the hut. But it's so oddly placed. It's like, wait a second, who is she speaking to? Is she speaking to one of herself? It's really a fantastic way of building that mystery of what's about to come.
Well, and really from an audience perspective, it's like, oh, she's probably talking to Luke. Like, hey, teacher, I went to the cave. I had to find out for myself if this is, I wanted to experience that, even though you're like, dude, you went straight to darkness. I had to check it out, I just had to check it out again. It was calling me.
It's just a test.
It's just a test. It was,
Did I pass? I like the idea that maybe Luke was wrong in his assumption that she went to the darkness in the aspect that she might turn to the darkness. I think that perhaps her curiosity with the darkness is in hopes of being able to draw Kylo and Ben out of it.
Yeah, and I think at this point too, Luke is experiencing. He just lost his nephew, and so the fact that Rey is in another place and trying to go there, he doesn't want to experience that again. Because again, he stepped away from that. He's like, I am not doing this. I'm not equipped to lead the next generation of Jedi. And that's why he's like, I'm gonna shut this thing down and I'm gonna die. Because he just had enough. He's like, the last time I picked up a lightsaber, I was gonna kill my nephew, and I think I'm done. And so it's the same thing with Rey. He's like, okay, now you're going to the darkness too. I can't have anything of that. But
I'm batting zero on this one.
yeah. I mean, again, Rey's trying to find her heritage, and really what the cave kind of showed her is just basically herself. She has to rely on herself more than anything. And there's like a million Reys there snapping fingers, so
Yeah. And it's funny, like just the way you just said it, she's facing herself, where Luke in his cave, he was almost impeding himself. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating character arc, meeting in the middle from two completely different paths. It's really quite cool.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting journey, because as I sit here quietly listening for like a moment, when Rey does get introduced to us in The Force Awakens, clearly she's a nobody, but then has all this Force sensitivity. So then as an audience member, you're like, oh, what's going on here? And then we move into The Last Jedi, where she's actually on a legit path to answers. And obviously there is then the whole Kylo relationship, whatever definition of relationship you want to put on it. But she's so desperate for information that, because my thought was, and I think this was brought up, is in the desperation of answers of who you are as a human being, anybody that will tell you who you are, you will listen to, even if that includes the evil and the dark side, because you're just desperate to know something. But I do love the idea of going towards that glass, towards that mirror, to be like, show me, where I come from and who I'm supposed to be and what I'm destined for, to then just be shown yourself, I think is a very great storytelling method that I applaud Rian Johnson for, because it does require you to be like, I can choose who I am regardless of who my past is. I can choose what my destiny is regardless of my circumstances. So maybe I need to stop focusing on where I come from and who I am, but what can I do with what to move forward with? So her level of aggression of who the hell am I? Oh, sorry. Who the heck am I? is a different kind of aggression.
The dark side cave. You start swearing. I don't know.
Oh man, it's the worst. Well, that's kind of like Kylo had said to her, where, let the past die.
Right.
It's of no use to you, which is true. You can learn from the past, but it's detrimental to dwell in it.
Right.
Well, and the same thing can say about Luke, because once he finds out that Darth Vader, his father, is like literally wiped out all the Jedi, and he's kind of a bad dude, he still chooses differently. He's like, and that says a lot about Luke too. Like, okay, these two guys that went into seclusion, their best idea was to kill my dad. And when you really think about it, it's like, I thought we were trying to get out of the killing business, again, like we're peacekeepers. And I think, again, that's when he throws down the lightsaber against the Emperor's also surprised by that, because it's like, You can't win, but he can win by, not choosing to go fight violence with violence, and that's what Luke does, Right. And I think Rey is in a similar kind of situation. She's meeting Luke Skywalker, the myth, the legend, the end all, the be all, and he's a disappointment to her. It's not what she expected. And I think the same thing she's expecting. Again, we see her in Jakku putting check marks on the AT-AT saying, I've been here, I'm waiting for my parents to come back, and she's staying there. It's funny because Luke is trying to leave Tatooine, and she's trying to stay in Jakku, and they both get kicked off of the planet in different ways, but
by droids though.
By droids.
Oh man.
There they are again.
But she's always still trying to I need my parents, and I think the cave is trying to show her that you can move. Yeah. You can move ahead.
And even Maz told her that.
Yeah.
She said, this is what you seek is not behind you, it's in front.
Yes.
And move forward and move on with your life instead of staying here on this backwater planet where you may or may not ever find answers. You need to decide and figure out who you are, not who you come from.
Yeah, it seems like a good part of it. Luke is running from who he is because he's not enjoying it, and Rey is running towards trying to find who she is because she needs it.
That's such an important point, because when we all grow up, we have a way that our parents teach us about how the world is and the kind of environment that we grow up in, and we don't know any better. That's all because that's all we know. But once you're able to, and this is a theme in a lot of archetypal tales, is leaving your family, leaving your household, and going on an adventure. And part of that is so that you could see the world and see all the different kinds of possibilities that are out there. But once you're removed from that environment where you grow up in, it's then you actually have the perspective to look back and pull apart all the threads that make that up and see where they lead. And it's oh, that's why this is that, and that's that, and that doesn't make sense. And so we see that both in Luke and Rey, in that Luke leaves the farm, his old podunk town in Tatooine, and he sees that the galaxy is a much grander place, but also a much more dangerous place.
Right.
And he's able to rise up to meet that challenge. And Rey has a very similar arc as well, in that she leaves Jakku and discovers her Force abilities and meets Luke and begins instruction and training in the Jedi way. And so that's why it's important to leave the past behind, because yes, it does nourish you and grow you and teach you, but it can only take you so far.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right.
It gives you that foundation, and then from there you build on who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
Well, and also Rey gains friendship. She's never had a friend, in a sense. She's riding solo, and she kind of finds friends, with Finn, and she begins to bond with them and understands hey, I can rely on other people to help me out. Not only in this bigger space, but also just my personal journey,
right? And trust, and build that trust versus the sort of the transactional nature of most of the relationships. It comes down to, what can I get out of you to to help me? In this case, it's mostly people trying to help her because they want to help her.
Right. Exactly. So, does Anakin have a cave experience? Just to kind of
throw it out there.
Well, it seems that the cave trial is very early on in the teachings. Okay, we see Rey and Luke both at the beginning of their studies going into their caves. There's a large gap in Anakin's cinematic journey between the end of Phantom Menace when he's just a Padawan, like he just got the robes and they fit all right, and then he gets his little haircut and all, and then that's literally the closing scene of the film. And the next one is, he's 18 and he's off on adventures with Obi-Wan. So I would imagine that he also had a cave experience or something similar.
I think he had one.
I think he had. Yeah, I think we see it in Attack of the Clones.
Yes, Geonosis with his duel with Dooku.
Yeah, okay.
No, I would say I say it's earlier than that. I say it's on Tatooine when he enters the Tusken Raider camp. That's his cave experience, in a sense that he also has issues, as everyone does. He has abandonment issues because he loved his mom, and he's like, "Oh, Master Qui-Gon, let's go on a space adventure." And then he's like, "Oh, Mom, are you coming along?" And Mom's like, "Nope. Yeah, I got to stay here or I blow up." So he and he's having these dreams. He's having these dreams and visions because he's very high with midichlorians and he has all these kind of force dreams, and his mom is calling him back to Tatooine, and when he finds her, she ain't in good health, and I think that's his cave experience. He decides then that he wants to do what he wants to do, and no one's going to mess with anything that he loves. And I think that's where he makes the decision. He is going to protect anything he loves, and no one's going to mess with him. And that's kind of,
And if they do, they're going to get cut down.
They're going to get cut down.
Yes,
and then,
young or old.
Yeah, right. The other thing is he tells Palpatine this. And then in Revenge of the Sith, after he takes down Dooku, and you get that nice, there's a little Tusken Raider in the background. It's so good. Just like, remember what happened? You told me what happened at the Tatooine. And he's like, oh, yeah. I know what happened there, and I killed him. No big deal. But that's the wrong person to tell, and now he is on that path of aggression, and because that kind of got put under the rug, he's like, yeah, I told Padme, I killed the mother, the children, everybody.
She's still into me, though.
Yeah, she's still into me. It's cool. It's cool.
She takes
I
me.
Cried, I cried, and
she really knows how to choose them.
The other aspect, she picks some winners. It's like when your friend's dating this loser, and you're like, "Come on, really?" But he's so powerful in the Force. It's like the chosen one and stuff. But then there's the whole. Let's just pick up line. I'm chosen one. So there's the whole aspect of. That's now apparently canon, where Palpatine had a hand in Anakin's conception. And
well, that's up for interpretation, but
well,
from a sitting point of view.
So I think it's entirely possible that those sort of doubts and fears are ingrained in Anakin from birth, and I think
absolutely.
that some of things some of these thoughts, some of these force visions, fever dreams, and all that sort of things that he experiences can be attributed to Palpatine's little seeds that he planted to turn him. So I'm not sure that the choice to turn to fear and aggression was entirely Anakin's to make. I think much of it was ingrained in him from birth.
When I started thinking about whether or not Anakin had his quote-unquote cave experience, literal cave experience, I I sort of interpreted most of his all the fever dreams as, the dreams at least themselves were the same emotional highs and lows that both Rey and Luke go through in an instantaneous, but a very, very short time period. You see those extreme emotions come out. And again, I fully believe that, Palpatine had control of those dreams to drive him down certain paths.
He's tortured by them.
Yeah, absolutely. And
absolutely.
So
he's haunted by them.
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
he says. He's like, I'm haunted by them.
And as soon as he sees, Padme, screaming in deathly pain, and all those different emotions, those are very similar sort of end points of both Rey and Luke as they go through their cave experiences of realizations, coming to grips with, oh wow, this is actually going to happen. Those were serious drivers in that path.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, awesome. Okay, no, like I can't top it. That was good. That's awesome. I mean, I think it's
hadn't
both.
considered
I think
before that Palpatine might be planting those dreams. I didn't think about that before, but that's an interesting theory.
We did the podcast with Palpatine.
Yeah, we did a.
Okay.
I think it was our last podcast. We just did a quick talk about how much did Palpatine control, because when I was rewatching it again, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan end up on
Tatooine.
On Tatooine, because they're both they're chased off of Naboo. But it was Chancellor Valorum who actually sent them down to Naboo, and not Palpatine. So it was like it sparked a question in my mind. Wow, just a second, how far-reaching is Palpatine's power? And of course, when I have those types of questions, I don't ask Google or Wikipedia. I ask Patapedia.
Right. Well, if you want here, I mean, I don't want to go too much in a tangent, but here's my 2-minute theory: is that if Palpatine did do this Force birth and said, "I messed around with the midichlorians," he knows the Jedi system and that the child would be picked up if he's Force sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The issue with Anakin is he's a slave, so he doesn't fall into that category in a sense. Because he's on a backwater planet, and he's a slave, and so no one's gonna mess in that system and say, "Oh, my son is Force sensitive, and here you go." So he doesn't get picked up right away, and he just happens to be picked up by these Jedi, and I don't think that's the Force in a sense. But Palpatine's like, "Oh, this might be my dude," after. 6 years, he's been waiting 2 years, and then 6 years is like, oh, finally, here he is. Here's my boy.
I got to meet this Qui-Gon. I love this guy.
And then he's like, when they land on Naboo, he's like, we're going to watch you with great interest. He's like, dude, I just birthed you, man. That's like me, But that's kind of my theory.
I am
is
your
that
wait, no.
If... Yeah. If
Todd, was that your reaction when you were first a father?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're my spawn, man. So
high five.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's true, I think that was a monkey wrench in Palpatine's plan. Is like he didn't see him soon enough, and then did that actually happen? Palpatine's like, oh, maybe, I don't know, we'll see.
Tried. I read some books on it,
and I totally go with the theory now that Qui-Gon, in his deep belief in the foretelling, the prophecies. Thank you, the prophecies, and that his singular path of understanding and really believing that the midichlorians did exist, it was destined for him to find Anakin, but no one else in the Jedi Order really followed that, and that's why in the following movies, it always bothered me. It's like, oh wow, these midichlorians. Oh, you got one movie and then bang, they're gone. Yeah. But I now understand, especially after reading Master and Apprentice, that it was Qui-Gon's vision that midichlorians were the huge part of the prophecies. No one else really believed it, but they humored him almost. But
he was the crackpot conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and then just think about
you got Obi-Wan in on it.
Right.
Yes.
And Dooku, especially, we learned from Master Apprentice that Dooku is like obsessed with them.
Yes.
And that kind of bleeds down to Qui-Gon, right? And the minute Shimmy says there was no father, Qui-Gon's like, it's the prophecies! And
It's the guy. That's the guy.
that's the guy.
It's like maybe you had a little too much blue milk one night at the cantina, and no.
So I think again, and that set Qui-Gon on his path because he's like,
Yeah.
we
got to do whatever it takes to get this kid and train him.
Right. Yeah. He's like, with determination, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And he's going to will it to happen because he's been studying prophecies and like, Anakin's, this is it. Anakin's the dude,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's.
And, Obi-Wan, only through loyalty to Qui-Gon, follows that path. He doesn't really believe in the midichlorians or the fact that that's a defining factor. He may be the chosen one, as he would say, but it's his loyalty to Qui-Gon that he continues the training.
He was the chosen one.
Yeah, he was, yeah. But
You were the chosen one.
So, but yeah, there you go. All right, so there is some legends with the cave as well. And so if you are an avid gamer, you would know this on Force Unleashed. Galen Merrick, who is Starkiller.
Sam Witwer.
Our buddy.
Yeah.
We're like this.
We did.
Exactly.
We said hi to him and took a picture.
And we paid him, of course, but yes.
Yeah. Well, we
was
got
a rental friend.
It's a rental friend, yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I met him too at Celebration.
Oh man, he's so good. I love him.
He meets Yoda at Dagobah, and he says, Yoda says, "Brought you here, the galaxy has your path clearly. This is, you know what I'm looking for?" He asks, "Something lost, a part of yourself, perhaps. This which you seek inside, you will find." Is what Yoda says.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so in this part, Starkiller Galen Merrick enters the cave, and he faces the dark spirit who took the form of several other clones of Starkiller and had to carefully traverse, all the stuff you do. I mean, because it's a video game, you got to do stuff, boom, boom, boom. You made it deep in the cave and receive a vision of the assault on the Salvation, which is the Star Destroyer. Starkiller exited the cave and left the planet. So he faces clones, and spoiler alert, in the game, you turn out you are a clone. So some of what he saw was actually, some of what you actually saw came to fruition too. So it's not, the dark, even if this is a dark side cave, it's showing what you want, but also showing some truth,
Yeah.
So
are you familiar at all with Carl Jung?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Swiss psychologist.
Psychologist.
Okay.
Yes.
Like mid 20th century. So there's a lot to him, but he basically founded depth psychology, and one of the ideas that he put forward was that to really step into who you're supposed to be, you have to go down to the deepest, darkest part of yourself, to where you most don't want to look, and that's where you're going to find the truth about yourself and what you need to change and what you need to do. Because we all have our blind spots with our character or things that we do, and we don't want to address it. It's the big elephant in the room.
That was what Yoda ended up doing in the Lost missions, where he went and confronted his dark side, and to shed a light on that in that last arc there of the series so far.
Yeah, and it seems like it's something that Luke and Rey, they both pass this test by, they go down to that dark place, and Rey, she kind of understands that there is no past, there is just her. And, she's willing to move forward after the revelation of that. And Luke, in his cave, he learns that he has that aggression within him, and it can lead him to become a terrible, terrible person. But he decides he's going to control that instead and use it to work for him. Whereas Anakin fails that. He goes down to the deepest, darkest part of himself, which is that bond with his mother and what happens when that's taken away.
Yeah.
And he fully gives into it, and he goes full genocide, which is like, ugh.
Well,
he
wants to control that. He is literally trying to will the future. You know, it's like, I can't let anything that I touch and love get away from me. And, you know, in Yoda, when Yoda gives him advice in the temple, he's like, death is a natural part of life. You can't change. You can't change that. But that's not the message Anakin wants to hear. It's like,
no, he wants to hear about these teachings where you can keep people alive and bring people back, such as Palpatine was saying.
And again, Palpatine is like, I can teach you. Here's another thing that just kind of will throw a little monkey wrench into it. What happens if he told Dooku the same thing? And he's literally testing that theory to see if we kill Dooku, can we bring him back?
Absolutely. And you could see that in Dooku's eyes.
Dooku's like, dude, not me. Not right now.
His face is completely belies like the insider information that we're not privy to, but you can see the years of training and trust he's put in Palpatine in the crosshairs or in the scissor, actually, of the two blades, and you can see it flashing in front of his eyes.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The amount
And just
of
that
emotion.
shock and betrayal.
Yeah. It's like, dude, and you know, he's heavy in the prophecies. So he's like, maybe.
Yeah.
He's so obsessed. He might have thought he was the chosen one too. That's another little thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to throw out something Pat mentioned before when we were talking about it. He mentioned about the when Rey touched the lightsaber in Kanata's palace. I think that's her first cave experience, in fact. For the amount, depth of what she went through in those split seconds, for all the voices and the foretelling of what she could become, that was almost like Cave 1.0. As opposed to her jumping into it, that was almost an involuntary look-see, but still very pivotal in what her character arc was going on. And when he reminded me of that, he's like, wow, it's so true at how powerful that was when she wasn't expecting it, yet she ventured into the cave because she was ready for it. It was quite fascinating to remember that in a completely different context from the cave. So it was a really cool memory.
Yeah. I also, this is jogging my memory too, because I'm going to one of my favorite arcs in the Clone Wars is the Mortis trilogy. And Anakin does see the future.
Sam Witwer.
Anakin sees the future, and then he gets mind wiped, but then becomes the same thing he saw in a sense.
Yep.
Because the brother basically brother shows him the future, and it's dark. It's super dark, and it's ominous, and he sees this dark figure, and the brother's like he wants to join. It's like, this is your path, and the very thing he was trying to avoid, he became. It's just, it's awful, but awesome at the same time.
Yeah, and Vader's theme in the background, the subtle notes. I mean, it's so rich. That
it's so
4 or 5 second. You're so right. It's really good.
And without remembering that cautionary tale, he doesn't know to avoid
it. That's how strong his path is already laid out in front of him.
Yeah, and then finally in Clone Wars, we get the lost episodes, and Yoda goes to Dagobah, and he enters the cave for the first time under the guidance of Qui-Gon, who's like a little fairy sprite. Again, very, very fair. I mean, he's a fairy. That's what Qui-Gon is. He hasn't.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. We're not.
No, none. Right, but he's it's very mystic. It's very mystic, and he again he's Qui-Gon's learning to speak from beyond, and Yoda has visions of the fall of the Jedi Order and the rise of another dark figure that becomes Darth Sidious. So Yoda sees that in his future, and Yoda is trying to prevent that, and I think it just speaks volumes to when you go to back to like Attack of the Clones, and he's like, is he the chosen one? They're having that little talk in the gunship between Yoda, Mace, and Obi-Wan, and it's like misread. We might have the prophecies, and Yoda's probably like, "Ooh, I don't know, maybe
about that cave." Yeah. Well, sorry, that cave about. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then in Revenge of the Sith, Mace is like, well, I guess we'll have to tell the Senate that, our ability to use the Force is diminished. And
Look, we're kind of blind in this whole Force thing. It's like when you're I don't know what to like equate it with, but it's like you're a driving instructor. And you're teaching all these, and you're like, listen, I don't know how to drive, so I probably should have told you this like 2 decades ago, but we don't really know what's going on with the Force right now. So sorry.
Yeah, but then you have to think Yoda's like, maybe this is what I'm seeing, or Yoda's like isolated himself because he's got to meditate on this because he constantly knows that this dark side is oppression, and the fact that it's canon that there's a temple, a dark side temple underneath the actual Jedi temple.
Yes.
And you have Sidious Palpatine's presence there. It's like they're losing that connection because they're right on top of evil,
and they're being clouded.
They're being clouded. Yeah. So it's pretty deep. So yeah, the cave. It's a great place.
Yeah.
Just don't go in.
Just don't go in.
Yeah. No, but I think we have to land on what Aaron said and just say, sometimes in a hero's journey and a path of enlightenment to yourself, you have to get to the deepest, darkest part and wrestle with that in order to move ahead. If you don't,
absolutely,
you're going to be stuck, And I think that's kind of what the cave is trying to tell our heroes in various different ways. Like, and if you don't tackle that, you're going to end up the thing you don't want to be, And I think that's kind of how we should end this.
And also, I think what Heather said as well is are you going to be proactive about it, or are you going to be passive about it? And that's sort of the key part of that journey where you're going to start.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
Agreed. Council adjourned.
We just solved it.
We solved it.
Heather.
Sir.
Let's do news of the week.
It's time for news of the week.
And now, the Star Wars news of the week.
I have a very interesting headline to read. Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
Everyone's sitting down.
Oh, wait,
ready?
A second. Okay, there we go.
Luke, sit down.
Okay.
Sit down, Luke. Luke's been standing this whole
Get
time.
down from there.
Forbes.com.
But he is the high ground. Yes. Okay.
All right. Forbes.com states 500 million year old species has now been named after Star Wars' fastest starship.
The Y-Wing? No love for the Y-Wing.
Oh man.
Sorry.
I think, Aaron, I think you're also trying to slip that in every episode.
Yeah. Seriously, we went to Celebration. We were looking around for Y-Wing artifacts, merchandise. Nothing.
No love.
There's no thing.
Nothing.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, tell us
All
what
right.
Forbes said to say.
What lesser ship was this named after?
So, all right. Here's Heather going to try to say lots of technical words. The Burgess Shale out of British Columbia is a world-renowned fossil.
Lagerstätte.
Thank you. Preserving some of the oldest, almost alien-looking animals ever to have lived on planet Earth.
Out of Canada? Who would have thought?
So, discovered in 1909 by chance, American invertebrate paleontologist.
There's a lot of big words in here.
Listen, we take our news very seriously around
You're
here.
doing great, Heather.
Thanks, Aaron. Charles Doolittle Walcott
Charles, what? What? Oh,
Uh-huh.
well caught.
No, you heard me right.
Well caught. Okay. Almost. Almost.
Gentlemen, come on. The Burgess Shale Formation is a succession of 500 million year old layers deposited on the seafloor by submarine landslides that killed, embedded, and preserved many marine creatures.
It's like freezing them in carbonite.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I'm
Great.
with you.
See?
Yeah.
Everything is connected. So, I hit the wrong button. Live podcasting, it's fine. Basically,
yeah. They're shaped like what, Heather?
So the shape of the extra large head, basically has now been named the Millennium Falcon.
Its name Falcatus.
Yeah.
Yes. So, or specifically Falcatus.
Okay.
Very cool.
There you go.
So Forbes.com if you want to take a look at the Burgess Shale Formation.
And yeah, if you want like some Latin, you can go right there and pick it up there.
So
those bones don't look like much.
They've got it where it counts.
There we go.
So crazy times, I tell you, out there in the world.
All right.
Aaron, is there anything you'd like to share with the rest of the class?
I would.
Great.
So I actually originally saw this story in NPR, but this particular one comes from LA Times. A pilot died in a military jet crash near Death Valley's Star Wars Canyon. Navy confirms. So when I first read this, they didn't find the pilot yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's
Yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah, there's a jet assigned to the Vigilantes of Strike Fighter Squadron VFA 151 based at Naval Air Station Lemoore. So it was an FA-18E Super Hornet. They were basically doing a test maneuver that occasionally, in this particular area, they let civilians come and watch. The name of the pilot has been withheld for 24 hours. They're going to be notifying next of kin. And they don't know the cause yet. It's under investigation, but went down about 10 a.m. On the 1st, I want to say. Near an area often referred to as Star Wars Canyon, which is not far from the Navy Air Weapons Station China Lake. There are 7 visitors who had minor injuries from it. So it's not common for military jets to fly low over national parks, such as Death Valley.
Yeah.
But it is a standard practice there. It's one of the main attractions, says Death Valley National Park Public Information Officer Patrick Taylor. And the Air Force and Navy have used the area for military training practices since the early 1930s. And it's named Star Wars Valley because it's 2 like very narrow canyons, kind of like the Trench Run.
Okay.
So
well, it's but I think also, is that the filming location or no? That's just
it might be.
I think because like this is where it's used in Indiana Jones
Yes.
and in Star Wars is that same kind of cliff angle, and I think that's what the pilots try to do is kind of like Beggar's Canyon, fly through it and do maneuvers around it.
Bullseye
and
Womp
that's-
Rat.
And maybe pod races.
and maybe pod races too. But I think it's that same kind of setup, and that's why it's highly visited by tourists because that's where they filmed it.
Wow.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so unfortunately, the
terrible.
galaxy's a rough place,
Yeah.
and it's tragic that there's some loss of life over this. But I don't know how to spin that positively, so let's just move on to the next
Right. I'm sorry. I just
Star Wars news
was-
headline.
Okay, this is coming from Screen Rant. The Sith Troopers are good. We love red. We love red. Yeah. In Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker could be remnants of Revan's Carbonite army. Could this tie to First Order's origins in the unknown regions? I don't know, but that's kind of what Screen Rant is going about, saying, obviously Palpatine's coming back. maybe, possibly. Since presumed dead for decades, thanks to the destruction of the second Death Star, blah, blah, blah. But, again, the Sith Trooper made their debut at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019, just a couple weeks ago. And really the question that Screen Rant is saying, but what if there's more to them than only being elite soldiers in the First Order? What if their story dates back thousands of years to the Old Republic? Little spoiler, they did pull down this description from San Diego Comic-Con, but basically saying that they deal with artifacts, Sith artifacts and chants. And I don't know what was going on with Lucasfilm, but they're like, okay, we got to pull that down, and they fixed the error with the Death Troopers. They say they were part of Force Awakens. There was a lot of, and they took the sign down there was something going on. They weren't getting their record straight or whatever. But basically, again, Screen Rant saying possibly could there be a tie to the Old Republic, which would be very interesting because, again, if you're a diehard, Knights of the Old Republic is one of the gems out there, and could this kind of storyline tie all the way back to then with these Sith Troopers
and the upcoming movies? Wow.
Yeah, right, maybe possibility. So
tie a nice little bow around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
I mean, for someone who doesn't know Knights of the Old Republic,
sure.
I mean, I'm all for it. Don't give me that look. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, if it's a way to introduce the next generation or those who have only been, the casual fan through just the basic films and slowly getting their hands into deeper parts of Star Wars, I'm all for it. Keep it good, keep it clean, keep it rolling.
And brand new.
Right, yeah. I mean, the only thing is obviously, we only got 2.5 hours unless we're going Lord of the Rings to, 4-hour bladder busters. I mean, it's hard. It's, I mean, I think you could tell a story or make it tied to Knights of the Old Republic, or you try to put in some kind of Easter egg that would make every fanboy and girl go, oh my gosh, KOTOR, something like that. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, it would be cool. I'm with Heather, and like if it's somewhere where it's clean enough for not only the newbie to understand and a deep cut for that diehard to say, I see where they're going here, so something along those lines to help kind of with the Sith Trooper origin would be pretty fascinating, I think.
I think if it serves the story, it's a good idea. If it's thrown in for fan service, I think it has a chance of muddling things up. And like you said, there's a limited runtime, and you need to close out this story cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. The Sith Troopers are sitting back, they take the helmets off, they're drinking blue milk and kind of wink at the screen. It's a little much. Yeah. It's a little much.
Wink at the screen and break the fourth wall.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Part of me wants to be really, really optimistic about this.
Yeah.
And say, Sith Troopers, what are the possibilities? Bring some KOTOR into it. Let's go Old Republic. Let's actually bring that to the big screen. And part of me just thinks they're going to be on screen for like 10 minutes and they're going to be of no consequence whatsoever.
I love it.
Yeah. They're just going to be
they look really cool.
A new action figure, and, that's it.
Say it. You got to say it. It's right here. It's right on the tip of your tongue. Merchandising.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spaceballs, the toilet paper.
I have a secret quest to try to get a merchandising reference in every one of our episodes. So far, I've been successful.
There we go. All right, Heather, drag us out of here.
All right, 1, 2, 3 news items. Check, and check. But now it's time for the part of the show where you get to learn more about us. Your crazy... I don't even know what to call us. So let's just move on to Cantina Chat.
Nice. Cantina Chat.
Pat,
Yes.
you're up.
Oh.
What
All
fun, crazy, nerdy, silly, geeky things have recently gone on in your life?
Everything, all of it. Yes.
I've been doing this since I'm 6 years old.
Right, yeah, I've been in this war. So, I guess the most recent, as in a couple hours ago, I'm working on Leku for my daughter's Rebels era Ahsoka headpiece, and it's very challenging and frustrating and amazing. So, long story short, my daughter is a Star Wars fan, which if she wasn't, I'd have kicked her out years ago. She's 12, by the way. So,
you got to have your cave experience.
Exactly.
So Padme could be the queen at whatever age.
Exactly.
I gotcha. I'm following.
Yeah. So she did the whole. She loves Ahsoka, and so we did the Clone Wars era Ahsoka for her a few years ago. She went to Disney and did the Jedi training. Fought Darth Vader. Awesome. Really cool. And so now we're trying to amp up for our visit to Galaxy's Edge on opening day because we're insane people. And so she's looking to have her new Ahsoka at the ready. So that's what I've been up to.
Wow.
Right on.
That's awesome.
All right, Charles, can you top that?
Well,
I can't. How about you? What's going on in your
You used white wax in your beard.
Yeah. He's not lying. I am also getting ready for the trip to Galaxy's Edge because I am also insane, and I am getting my Rebels era Rex. I guess Disney bounding. Because you can't really do too much for cosplay.
Right. Not as an adult.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to gray up my beard a bit more than it naturally is, but putting my pieces together for going as Rex for bounding. So just working on some belts and some shirts. And,
excellent.
Yes, so that was literally this morning. My son, who was had bought some white hair wax because he was doing his hair. I walked out with my beard, and he was thoroughly unimpressed, as is most of my family.
Oh.
How sad.
But I had fun, so that's okay.
Well, as long as you're happy with
exactly.
There you go. Perfect. Excellent. Well, if you've heard on previous podcasts, I too will be in Florida at Walt Disney World when Galaxy's Edge opens.
Ooh.
I know.
Meet up.
Well, if you
Wow.
see me
Our,
getting kicked out
on-the-ground
for my
reporter.
hyper accurate Han Solo outfit, then you know it's me.
Look for the cops, you'll see us.
Okay.
Sir, you can't dress like that here.
Yeah.
I did last time.
Oh,
But you're going, that's
All right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Aaron.
Yes,
How have you been?
I've been doing pretty good.
Good.
Couple things. First, I guess not really a nerdy thing, but whatever.
Whatever. This is your show, bro. You can do whatever you want.
So for those who have heard me but not seen me, I've got a condition called alopecia, which means my immune system is attacking my hair follicles and making them stop producing hair. It's not really that common or well researched, but about a year ago, I found this alopecia support group in the Chicago area. Long story short, they had a beach picnic hangout today over in Crystal Lake. So I went, and it was pretty cool because I don't really see other people like me very often in the wild. But
They're usually caged, I think. No, that's
no, but it was great. It was just meeting other people who are just living ordinary lives, with the same condition. So pretty cool.
That is awesome.
On the nerd front, I've been running my metal radio show. That's been pretty fun to do. For those who don't know, I do every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time. I stream on Twitch a metal music radio show We do classic.
By the
Metal
way,
Mondays.
which is that's so metal right there. You're just like, you know what? I'm going
We stick to a
Twitch.
schedule.
I'm gonna go on Twitch and do my own thing and do your kind of like underground anarchy, metal show.
In the building of another radio station I work in. It's great.
That is so metal. It's metal, man.
It's very punk rock. Like they would just go to rent out a VA hall and like print up their own posters, and if nobody came and the sound sucked, like who cares?
Who cares?
Nice.
But I assure you, my sound does not suck. But yeah, there's Classic Metal Mondays, Midweek Madness on Wednesday, where I just play whatever because it's my show. Get out. And then New Release Friday, which is my personal favorite because there's just so much music coming out every week that you've never heard of. That's awesome. So we have an hour and a half of music, half an hour of kind of talk show format on different topics relating to mental health, self-mastery, just kind of improving your life. So
you should do an episode about the cave, bro.
I should. I should dig out some Jung.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's twitch.tv/mindovermetal.
Very cool.
Okay.
All right, Heather, what have you been up to in your recovery?
My recovery, yeah. So Heather's been hanging out with a pinched nerve in her shoulder, so she's winning life.
Adulting.
It's
just throw some crate salt in there and walk it off.
It's amazing what a muscle relaxer can do. I may or may not have had my own Dagobah experience.
Took one of those once and slept for 19 hours. Go ahead.
Woo! Yeah, so finally people in my life have finished Stranger Things, so I've been having all kinds of gossip and conversation about it.
Fun.
So I think I was the only one in my life that finished it in the first weekend, so I've been waiting on people. Todd Hoffman. Like me. Like Todd. No, so that's been going on. But honestly, it's been pretty lax in some of the other geekdom of my life because I am packing and trying to get my life ready for the last week of August when I'll be in Florida. So, you're packing for Disney where you want to look cute and wear Disney things and also not die of heat stroke. So
generally a good goal to have.
Yeah, this is my life in a nutshell. So, but yeah, just kind of planning that. So, having some phone calls with the girls that I'm going with. Okay, what are we going to do and what's happening? And, so basically
that's a lot right there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running my budgets because let's be honest, there's just a lot that I'm gonna want to buy.
Yes.
And I need to
Well, we already covered that you're gonna get 2 droids. You're gonna get a BB-8 and a. No, you are.
I want to. We'll see what Disney does. We'll see if Disney lets me.
They'll let you. They will let you. And
now, are you going in are you got a guaranteed spot, or are you are you some sort of special level where you're?
Yeah, are you special? Are you specialer than us?
Basically, let's get to it. Can you take us in?
Well, so here's the deal. We planned our Disney trip for this time period months ago. So we're already going to be there.
Gotcha.
So my friend Lindsay, who I've mentioned, she actually lives out in California, and she's a Disney pass holder for Disneyland. So she's been to Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. So we don't like her.
Yeah,
That's I love her to
death.
But she's a new Disney Vacation Club member. Again, I know, right? This is what I'm saying.
She's dropping further on our list.
Levels. It's all these
levels of coolness that I'm trying to attain.
Right.
So she's got all of the Disney inside scoop and is working with all the travel agent people. So she just keeps waiting and waiting until the time that she can say, great, get us in. We're but she's got it planned that our plan is to be at Hollywood Studios at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.? Yeah, okay, get there at 5. Good, cool, all right.
Yeah.
We'll be there at 3.
Yeah.
3:30, let's not get ridiculous.
Okay, right, 3:30.
Yeah, right. So, so that's the plan right now.
Okay.
I mean,
I think they open
I've
at
had
6.
to rank things.
So-
I've had to rank priority of the land itself just to be like, this has to happen before this happens. This has to happen before this happens. So like, if I don't get a drink at the cantina, like that's slightly lower on the list for me than getting a
Right.
droid built.
Yes,
like,
droid building
is my number
and
one priority.
lightsabers are like, if you want to do them, you need to go straight to them.
Yes,
That's
and
what
that's
they're
the thing.
saying.
And that's what she said. She's like, you either can build a droid or build a lightsaber. The ability to do both can become difficult, she said, just in the amount of time it takes to do the line, the building, and the execution part. So this is literally what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, is just this whole planning process of how it's all going to go down. What am I going to wear? Because again, do I try to Disney bound? Do I wear the fun things I made for Celebration? There's just...
She's so stressed out about it. So sad.
You're so cute.
But yeah,
Oh, Heather.
it's fun. But I did go to Brookfield Zoo today, and we went to the Lego brick thing, which for those...
They have a Lego brick thing at the Brookfield Zoo.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
It's
so
super
sorry,
cool.
Florida friends, but if you're local and you get to Brookfield Zoo, I think before the end of September, they have
It's legit.
20 or 25 animals, and I'm not talking like tabletop animals. I am talking like giraffe size animals made out of bricks.
Wow.
It's pretty
Little
awesome.
Lego bricks.
Where have I been this whole summer?
Right?
Yeah, it's
It's spectacular. So I took a bunch of
it is.
pictures, took the camera out, dusted it off, took some shots. That's kind of how I've been spending my nerdy time.
Very cool.
That's
All
my
right.
life.
Very nice.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
So-
They're awesome, aren't they, Heather? They're
really
fantastic.
cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but I will throw some photos out to the social medias so those who do not live in the area can also enjoy
But we
them.
live in a good
There you
area
go.
too, though.
Yeah.
So
You
that's-
do live in a good area.
we got some stuff going on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have
You got,
you have a few things to do.
We've got Lego hurricanes.
We do.
Seriously.
They're terrible to step on.
Oh man.
Oh, Todd,
Yes.
how about you?
I finished Stranger Things season 3, so Heather and I could talk now about those things. So did that. That was good. I enjoyed it. I wasn't like Heather, who saw it in 2 days, but I took my time with this one. So, so that was cool to finish that this week. I also finished Thrawn Treason. Which is a new book from Timothy Zahn, my best buddy, my chum. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Definitely a little different. Thrawn is definitely a little different in this new canon than the old canon, but I still like him. I like him. And I really enjoyed this book. It's fantastic. There's political intrigue. You got a little Krennic, a little Tarkin, a little Thrawn. It's fantastic, and there's a little Rebels tie-in, and it's magnifique though. So I would, or not magnifique though, it's fabuloso. If George was here, yeah, it's really good. So I would highly recommend that. You can go to audible.com/WSTR and get it right now. So
Nice.
yeah, it's really good. I would highly recommend it. So,
ABP, always be plugging.
There you go.
there you go. So yeah, that's kind of been my week. I was pressing hard. Two of our other good friends that we met at a celebration, Jeremy and Greg, they were begging me to finish it. I'm like, I'm trying. I'm listening as hard as I can. So yeah. So we it's out of the 3 novels that Timothy Zahn has done for the new canon, I think it's the strongest one. I really enjoyed it. So
that's a high praise.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So if you like the other 2, this one is really good, really good. And
your bucket off.
I think, yeah. So if you like Thrawn, you like little Star Wars, check it out. So,
Very cool.
All right.
Very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
That's it for me.
All right. Well, if that's it for Todd, then that's it for the episode. So I'm going to put a bow on top, a cherry on top, whichever analogy you guys want to go with.
Right. Exactly.
So
sprinkles, whatever you want to put on.
I mean, whatever you like.
Yeah.
So thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. Please check us out on our social media. That's WSTR Media. That's all lowercase. It's one word. But we always want to hear from you. We don't need to hear from ourselves because we're here. We know what we're saying. But we need to hear from you. So comment. You can tweet us. You can rate us on the Apple Podcast. Or if you've got lots to say, shoot us an email at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. If the writing's not so good, but the vocal is there, then you call and you leave us a voicemail. And that's at 630-557-WSTR, otherwise known as 630-557-9787. And we'll throw that voicemail up on the podcast, and everyone's going to then also love you and adore you. That's kind of how it works.
It's true.
It's a fact.
So if this is your first time listening or your 1800 time listening, even though we only have 135 episodes.
That is a lot of repeat.
It's a lot
listens.
of repeating.
Yeah,
So, and how do you repeat episodes? You visit our back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com.
What's that, ABP?
And then you've fallen in love with us by this point, so now you have to rep us. And that's how you get your merch. store.wstrmedia.com. So, Pat and Charles, you've joined us. People have fallen in love with you. How do they find you on the social media?
Well, we're on Twitter at @Swations. That's SWATIONS. And we're also on Facebook at ConverSWations. And we also have our website, of course, ConverSWations.com, where we put all of our nerdy stuff up there, our cosplay, Black Series figures stuff, all the stuff that basically our wives tell us to keep in a dark room. And
Sounds about right.
and we have email, conversations@gmail.com. That's all those different ways.
Perfect. That's great. Well,
And they can find, like, on your website, they can find the cool ultimate viewing listing that you guys sent us, which
yes.
That
we
is
talked
there
about
as
that the
well.
other week, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was
Very awesome.
Very, thank you. That was a lot of work, but that was
Yeah.
It's really hard. We had to watch Star Wars.
Yeah,
It was tough.
over and over
I know,
again.
you're like,
Yeah.
right. How do I pick the most awesome Clone Wars episodes? I might just have to watch 6 seasons and figure that out. you
Again.
We do it for our fans, really. It's,
Not for the family.
oh no,
But, I'm going to speak for Aaron because Aaron's like, hey, I could watch 20 episodes of Clone Wars and tie it into the whole canonical canon timeline. Absolutely.
Yeah. It just, it greases the skids. It's a lot easier.
All right.
That's awesome.
All right. Yeah.
oh, man.
So, yeah, you got to check out their website, right?
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. We'll
Yes.
we keep that thing up to date for sure.
Perfect.
He does.
Awesome. Well, it's been a blast having you on, and I think we've all learned that if you find yourself in a dark cave or near a dark cave, either
Yes.
go in with weapons or without weapons. You're
Right.
still going
Or
to
a
find
flashlight. You might need a flashlight.
out. Or a flashlight.
Yeah.
But you're still going to find out that the best answer is be true to yourself, and you're going to be okay.
Nice.
All right.
Next week, episode 136, we are going to do an Imperial inspection of Jyn Erso. But it's got kind of a twist, because we're bringing back our good friend, Carla G.
Carla G.
Oh, yeah.
What? Who rumor has it that she's been working on her Jyn cosplay. Is this true or not? We'll find out. So, with every episode, there's only one way we end it. Gentlemen, if you guys are ready, let's do it. Now this is podcasting.
We did it.
We did it.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Charles.
We are good.
I was told not to clap last time,
ConverSWations.
so.